Steve was a terrific friend to me for a long time.
He was an excellent lawyer and a good man.
Steve was a role model and an inspiration.
A wonderful dad and a wonderful husband to Leslie.
I knew Steve for over 20 years. We began as friends at Osler Hoskin.
Steve was a very loyal graduate of Queen's, the class of law 84, a famous class, and he met his wife, Leslie, in law school. They're both graduates.
As we became more senior, Steve went off to become the managing partner of our New York office, which was a terrific time for him because it really took his career to the next level.
He and I were at competing law firms, so I got to see Steve on the other side of a transaction, and he was a formidable foe.
When he returned to the firm not long after that, he and I became managing partners of the firm together, and we did that for 4 years.
And then Steve made essentially a perfect transition into his in-house position at Manulife.
And I was so happy when he decided to do it. And then he joined our little group, the Association of Canadian General Counsel, and actually became such an active member, always an active participant in every discussion we had, a great advisor to all of us.
I've known Steve for over 15 years. We worked together on an acquisition in Japan. And I'm telling you, you really get to know a person when you're locked in a deal room for 20 hours a day.
Steve was incredibly supportive and personally loyal.
And Steve spoke about advice that had been conveyed to him early in his career by the legendary Purdy Crawford about the key attributes to being a great lawyer. You needed to be able, available, and affable. But more often than not, the third of those was the most important trait. And Steve lived up to that advice in every interaction we ever had.
He had not an arrogant bone in his body. He was well-read in many subjects.
I mean, Steve is always the kind of guy who just excelled at everything that he did, but not in a way that was showy or in your face.
He liked people. And in this business, liking people is very important.
And people wanted to be around him. They wanted him on their side. They wanted his advice and counsel.
Steve was an inspirational leader. He really understood the value of relationships, and he took the time to connect with people around him.
He had an incredible sense of fairness and balance. I don't know if that's reflective of his prairie roots.
Steve understood that resolving a case often meant getting a fair result, as opposed to necessarily saving every last penny.
Brilliant mind, brilliant intellect, great lawyer, great executive.
Classic example of a strategic general counsel and a strategic advisor within the company.
Steve realized that in order to be a really good general counsel, you had to be a great legal advisor, but also a great business advisor.
Exemplified exactly what we're all trying to do within our own companies.
Steve had a very full life outside of work. He had a very full life inside of work, but a very full life outside of work.
Very in tune with nature, and with that inquisitive mind of his, he loved to travel and to see new things and to challenge himself.
He and Leslie loved to travel. They loved to ski. They loved to cycle. And they loved family time together with their wonderful girls. He was the full package, and he had a sharp sense of humor that could detune the most tense environment.
Well, that really was one of his outstanding attributes. He knew how to make people feel good.
I remember talking to him about his favorite part of skiing, and it in fact wasn't the skiing. It was the 10 minutes on the chairlift with his daughter.
It's wholly, wholly appropriate that the Lifetime Achievement Award has been named after Steve.
Steve was a great contributor to the community.
And Steve, of course, was a titan in the field of corporate law and finance. Very fitting that there be a professorship in corporate law and finance named in his honor.
He'd already made his mark in the Canadian General Counsel community, but he would have gone on to do bigger things. He was a great friend and a great partner.
He was just a wonderful guy.
Somebody who really cared about his employees, cared about his peers, cared about me, and above all of that, really cared about his family.
I really admired Steve.
I really felt that Steve was mentor, one of the great guys. He's a terrific person, and I'm going to miss him.
His absence will be really felt.
He was incredibly warm and open and engaging.
I enjoyed his friendship, I enjoyed his legal brain, I enjoyed the benefit of his counsel, and he'll be greatly missed.